2 more sleeps till dun dun dun. Columbus.
That doesn't, not quite the same ring to it.
Yeah, it doesn't. But what's up, guys? Thank you for joining us. It's a beautiful Thursday. At least I hope so. I hope it's a little bit nicer than this Wednesday,
Yeah, that's
where it's
true.
been very rainy here in Indiana. Dominic, we are 2 sleeps away, as my little remix of the Great Beastie
Right.
Boys classic. We are 2 sleeps away from making the trip to our first UFC event in 5.5 years.
Yeah. Crazy.
Literally, that was like our first big thing we did after going to college. And here we are, both with bachelor's degrees. You are almost at a master's degree. We are 192 episodes into this podcast, plus our betting show, which is, what, 8 episodes strong or something? I don't know. We're not keeping very good count of those. But anyways.
My goodness.
I mean,
Full
Dominic,
circle.
a lot has happened since we went to Cleveland for UFC 203 back in 2016. That was literally the start of my fandom. I mean,
Yeah.
I there was so much I didn't know back then that I know now.
Yeah.
Even though I did get to fully appreciate it. I mean, I was in deep at that point. But it's just
Yes.
over these years, I have dedicated so much time to learning about the sport. And here we go. Finally, they're back in Ohio. We were supposed to be here this time 2 years ago. Headline was supposed to be Francis Ngannou, Jairzinho Rosenstruik, Cody Garbrandt versus Rafael Assunção. If you guys don't know what happened in those 2 fights, we missed out. But
Exactly.
we do have a pretty fun card ahead of us, Dominic. It's always fun to be, of course, in person for UFC event. How are you feeling being so close to the magical day?
I'm so excited, man. Like you said, it's been almost 6 years. This is the first time the UFC's been back to Ohio in that amount of time. First time in Columbus in like 13 years. So, it's on ESPN. It just feels big. We're the first domestic fight night that the UFC's traveled to since COVID. I mean, it feels big, So I'm super excited. We've got a huge group of friends going. It's going to be great getting together with everyone, cherishing that time with one another. I'm super stoked, man. This card, it's a low-key sleeper. There's 26 fighters on the card. 13 of them are ranked. I think we've got a lot of fun on our hands. It's going to be a good night, my friend. And like you said, 2 more sleeps. Woo-wee.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your sentiment about the card being a bit underrated. Now, let's be clear. Probably not going to be UFC London.
Of
But
course.
I don't think any fight night has ever been UFC
Ever.
London.
Yeah.
So it's a tough act to follow, a tough crowd to follow.
Yeah.
So that definitely makes me nervous.
We'll try our best. You and I.
Don't come after us if the crowd isn't to your liking or if the fights aren't to your liking. It's not our fault, people. We are simply just a couple people. We are a small fish in a big pond there at the Nationwide Arena. But Dominic, before we get into the action from UFC Columbus this weekend, we got to start with a little action outside of a steakhouse in Miami.
I do like steak.
Apparently Jorge Masvidal doesn't. To set the scene here, there's still details, I guess, kind of being worked out about what is going to come of this. But as it stands here, Wednesday evening, as we're recording, Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington had an altercation outside of a steakhouse in Miami. This happening, was it Monday night? Right?
Yeah.
Monday night. Colby Covington was eating inside with the Nelk boys, apparently. That's just a weird tidbit about this. When he was leaving, Jorge Masvidal apparently ran up, basically came up, ambushed him or whatever, sucker punched him a couple times. He had a hood on, was wearing a mask, which is kind of funny. I mean, it's kind of ironic, right? I mean,
He's just following the rules,
Well, I mean, Jorge wearing a mask, he's very anti-mask. It's kind of funny. He was apparently, Colby was on camera, I guess, or being recorded at one point talking to the cops, and he said that Jorge said, "You shouldn't have talked about my kids." Truthfully, Dom, I mean, we can laugh about this or whatever, but I mean, it's pretty ugly. I mean,
It is.
It's not clear. As of now, Masvidal has not been charged with anything, but it's I mean, I would imagine something more is going to
Yeah.
come of this. I don't claim to be a student of the law. I am just the one that abides by the law. That's why I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But anyways, Dominic, there is some big, deep questions we could get into here, and I don't want to like drop anything too deep on a bomb on you right away. But let me try to ease you in, and let's just talk about who's the victim here.
Who's the victim here? I mean, you have to go Colby. You know, the bad guy, Colby Covington. He's hanging out with the Nelk boys, probably making some sort of content with them. Bob Menery was there too. He does like the funny voiceovers. He wants to beat up's commercials. He's just trying to have a steak dinner. Jorge finds out he's there. I'm guessing just from social media. And then from every account we've seen, kind of just ambushed him, sucker punched him, chipped a tooth potentially is what I've been seeing as well. So it's weird, right? Saying that Colby is the good guy, quote unquote, in this situation. It's just like you said, it's ugly at the end of the day. Why this have to happen? No, I have to bring this up that I've seen nothing but hatred toward Masvidal since this happened on Twitter, especially. Like, not that he's still popular, he's a star, but you've seen kind of the community sway away from him bit by bit, and this really, I think, hurt a little chunk of his fan base in terms of like the hardcore fans, especially. They're all saying you had 25 minutes to do this with him in a cage. You couldn't do it. Now that you're doing it here on the street. That's been like the biggest narrative I've seen, even from pretty prominent names. DC, Daniel Cormier even said the same thing. So, when you're getting comments like that rolled around and whatnot, and, potential charges and jail time and yada, 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 just, it's all an ugly look for the sport, for you as a character. And if anything, you unintentionally might just boost Colby a little bit more, if I'm being honest.
Oof. Wow.
I know. That's
So we're gonna differ a little bit on this one, because I'm gonna say nobody. It's a trick question, Dom. Sorry.
You
no,
bastard.
I'm just kidding. Definitely, like, if you're if I had to pick somebody who's a victim here, I mean, Colby is clearly the one that got assaulted. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to say that. But I don't think anybody's a true victim here. And, it's pretty obvious why. You can probably get where I'm about to go with this. Look, I understand this is a fight game. Mean things are said. You ultimately end up fighting each other in the cage. Doesn't give you the right, no matter what job you have, no matter what profession, even if you're a professional fighter, doesn't give you a right to go, cause mayhem in the streets. Hey, shout out Mayhem Miller. He did cause a lot of mayhem in the streets back in the day. Weird tangent there. But, like Masvidal, okay, we know Masvidal, his roots, right? This guy was fighting backyard brawls with Kimbo Slice. He's truly about that life, if you're like, to put that kind of saying in there. I'm not going to say Colby Covington doesn't have any of that in him, but I mean, I don't think his rise to the game was the same. He was a very well decorated collegiate wrestler, I believe, and obviously that's kind of where he brought himself into MMA.
Yeah.
Colby, in the spirit of fight promotion, and I know some of it was legitimate hatred between him and Masvidal. He took a lot of low shots. I mean, he said a lot of mean things. Masvidal reciprocated. It seemed like I when it was talking about the kids thing, I had to kind of try to go back. I had to cut through and weave through all this footage of them just saying bitch back and forth.
Yeah.
But I guess he did. I mean, I think that's like the lowest of low.
I know.
When you go to that, or like someone's religion.
Yeah,
whatever,
just keep it
like,
out,
It's just that's like where you're just hitting. That's where you miss me with that shit. Or like you start getting racist, that guy that fought Javid Basharat, stuff like that. Just there's no need for it. Like I'm not necessarily. I feel conflicted because I don't want to like limit what people can say. Like I don't want to start policing these guys that are ultimately fighters.
Yeah.
But it's just not something that I want to hear. But Colby Covington kind of brought this on himself.
It's definitely an argument, for sure.
And again, I don't think he would necessarily tell you otherwise. I mean, I think a part of him. I mean, again, Masvidal does look terrible here. Again, the 25 minutes in the cage, he showed where he not a shred of what he. I mean, the best punch he landed in the fight.
Yep. 4th round.
Yeah, that was it basically for him through 5 rounds of fighting. So he looks like a bit of a chump here to like run up on someone on the street and sucker punch them because it comes off like you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
When he was alert, prepared.
Yeah.
But Dominic, I'm going to kind of throw another question at you here. Would this have happened even if Masvidal had won the fight?
That is a good question, especially because when you say, he is about that life and he's very much serious when it is, when they say like on site and whatnot, like he is that guy you probably don't want to fuck with, like get on the wrong side. Would it have happened if he won the fight?
Because I say yes. Or at least there was still a very good chance of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure he's been simmering and just anger.
Yeah, I'm sure it hasn't helped.
And maybe that's just why it happened like this. But I think no matter what, he was remembering some of those comments. And I think that this kind of outburst, interaction, altercation was going to happen one way or another.
You could be very right, man.
And Colby has a right to say whatever he wants. Again, he's not being reprimanded by the UFC or told not to say these things. They clearly, what he's built for himself is working. I mean, he's definitely made himself a player here in the upper echelon of the sport. But I think that just because we can say as law-abiding citizens, we don't approve of what Jorge Masvidal did here, but the reality is that if someone was talking about my family like that, I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't swing on someone,
Right.
Like who's to say we'd be any better if we were put in that situation? So
it's very true.
It's, again, you don't have to support the actions, but I think that you can denounce what Jorge Masvidal did here without treating Covington as if he is some sort of victim. Because I really think that Covington is kind of just as much at fault for this happening. I mean, and I don't know if he's really going to treat himself like a victim. I mean, he was on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking to police officers because, again, I don't think he was wanting to flee.
Yeah.
But I think I'm sure he's more just pissed that, again, a guy came up and sucker punched him, cheap shot him.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's treating himself like a victim. I don't like seeing people like his fans or other people who don't like Masvidal or whatever, they're acting like this was, poor Colby Covington. I mean,
right.
Come on,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Let's be more realistic about it. I mean,
yeah.
He said worse things about Dustin Poirier in the post-fight speech.
No shit.
Talking about, his daughter being Connor. Just, come on.
Ugly
it's
stuff.
Gross,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I so much was focusing on at first on how Masvidal lost this fight. And I was like, man, you had 25 minutes, what everybody else has been saying. And then I just took a second. I was like, but if he even won, if he knocked him out, if he did what he did to Ben Askren, I still think this happens.
Oh, that might be where I differ a little. If he baptized, quote unquote, like he does, maybe he doesn't, but maybe he still does.
He said after the Ben Askren win, he's like, look, I still don't like that motherfucker. He's like, if I see him on the street, I'm still going to drop him on his head.
Yeah.
Obviously, that
He's
never
real,
happened.
man. He's real.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want about the guy. And again, he does not look good here at all. Terrible. This is kind of a kiss of death here in some ways. And actually, my next question for you, I've seen some people saying, and I don't know if you're going to think this is really out there.
Uh-oh.
Amount of people, but it's definitely a vocal crowd that are thinking that maybe, just maybe, this whole thing is still done mostly in the spirit of fight promotion. Masvidal looking to get another big payday. Perhaps he sees the writing on the wall and knows that he needed something to reinvigorate some life into that fighting career. Dominic, is this really just pro wrestling?
No, not at all. Because here's the thing, Noah. At the end of the day, does he want to go fight Colby again, regardless of the pay? I mean, look what happened to him in that fight against his arch rival. He got destroyed for 24 and a half out of 25 minutes. You want to repeat that again? I call BS on that. I don't like that.
I'm sure in his head he thinks that if they fought again, he could, stay off his back and win. I mean, I'm sure.
Or is that the whole reason he decided to do this? Because he knows he can't do it in the cage. Ooh. I don't know. I don't think this is part of fight promotion at all. I don't think he wants to fight Colby again.
My response would be to anybody who thinks it is, well, it doesn't look like it worked.
Yeah, what if he really does go to jail? Is that worth it?
And the fallout of this is I've not heard anybody with any interest in this rematch.
Well, yeah, who wants to see it again as a fan? You know what I'm saying?
Just because this happened, it didn't make me any more interested in those two fighting again.
Not at all.
So
it's over and done.
If it is done for fight promotion, then it was kind of a failed attempt.
Yeah, I don't think it's working.
But I mean, Masvidal, he's gonna have some legal troubles, I'm sure, with this. But I'm sure he'll eventually end up fighting Conor McGregor or something.
Hey, he got Nate Diaz talking about him, so
Nate Diaz did have a pretty fun. That was pretty funny. He said, "How you gonna snitch on yourself?"
Yeah. Nate's gonna be Nate.
Any other final comments on this before we move on?
Wrap it up.
Now, Dominic, we do have a card this weekend.
Where is it again? Where is it?
C-Bus. And I don't know if we made it clear that we're actually going to this event. So
True.
The main event sees two top 10 heavyweights go head-to-head. Curtis Reza Blaydes, 4-1 favorite, going up against Chris Daukaus, one of the more promising guys in the back half of the top 15. So, Dominic, obviously this was originally supposed to be Alexander Rakic versus Jan Blachowicz, perhaps in a title eliminator to fight the winner of the future title fight against Yuri Prochazka, Glover Teixeira. That fight fell out. Blaydes Daukaus in here, kind of a late notice replacement main event. So when I look at this fight, Chris Daukaus is coming off his first loss in the UFC, a pretty tough one at that, a first-round knockout loss to Derek Lewis in his first main event to end 2021. Curtis Blaydes is coming off a win in pretty Curtis Blaydes fashion over Jairzinho Rozenstruik, but Curtis Blaydes' struggles with the elite of this division have been well documented. He fought Derek Lewis in a main event, a fight most thought he was going to win, probably with odds similar to this.
Yeah.
He looks great for the entire first round, then gets caught with a nasty, vicious uppercut that knocks him out.
Yeah.
He's fought Francis Ngannou twice, has been finished both times. Dominic, who has more to lose in this fight?
Ooh, I think you still have to go Curtis Blaydes. I think you do because he's always been there. He's always been right there, but not able to get the one he needs. Just like you said, with those two losses to Ngannou, with the loss to Derek Lewis, literally, if he wins any of those three, he probably, maybe, depending on the state of the division at the time, might get a title shot next, because that's how good he actually is. His skill set, he's the most dominant grappler in the heavyweight division. You don't see any other grapplers to this caliber until at least John Jones enters the equation, maybe. But still, just the way in which he does it is very dominant when he can pull it off. So, yeah, I think there's still a ton on the line here because, there's been those back and forths. Him and Dana don't seem to have the greatest relationship, maybe due to his fight style at times, and he's had the contracts iffy, but he'll win, and then he re-signs,
He came after the UFC's pay structure, too, so don't forget that.
You put into account all these factors, the fact that he's fighting back, it's different when you're fighting a Francis, you're fighting a Derek Lewis, but now you're fighting a number 9 Chris Daukaus. He's only got 5 fights in the UFC. If he comes in here and starches you, any shot of a title, I'd say, would be out the window for good, Noah, for Curtis Blaydes if he loses this fight.
That is a definitive statement.
Yeah.
Dominic, you don't give a lot of those. You don't give a lot of those definitive
I've
statements.
had a couple lately too.
Yeah,
Huh?
I know. You've definitely been stepping it up there. I like it. I like to dig them heels in the sand.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I tend to agree with you that Curtis Blaydes, more to lose here. Obviously, both guys need a win. Chris Daukaus, his stock was so high.
Yeah, it
And
was.
then it feels like it just plummeted after that Lewis fight. And I don't really know why.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. He didn't really show much in that fight, but it's Derek Lewis.
Exactly.
Are we really going to keep pretending like Derek Lewis isn't an elite heavyweight? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Curtis Blaydes is just a forgotten guy in this division. I mean, both these guys. This is why this main event's kind of being slept on. Is these are two of the more underestimated guys at this point. And you know, for Daukaus, it was just one loss. That's all it took for him. For Curtis Blaydes, again, it's been like you said. He hasn't ever really been able to get over that hump. And I think it's also his fight style not being the most fan friendly. But then you see these flashes. You see these performances that blow you away. The Alistair Overeem elbows. He knocked or TKO's Junior Dos Santos.
That was on the feet too.
Yes, I mean, but then you have like the win over Alexander Volkov. Does anybody even remember that?
Right.
Probably not.
Even the win over Rosenstruik.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, I bet most people didn't even remember that fight happened. It's
Yeah.
That's Curtis Blaydes, though, and he is probably the best wrestler in this division. And I don't think he's one note necessarily either, but, you know, whether it's bad luck or bad striking defense or whatever it is, he's just obviously been KO'd by the two guys in the division with the most KO power.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't be like necessarily looked at as like I don't think he should be in the position that I feel like he's in. And Dominic, I kind of agree with you. I'll even go a step further in your definitive statement. I don't necessarily think a loss takes him out of the title picture completely. I think a loss might take him out of the UFC completely.
Ooh-wee.
So I've said this about Curtis Blaydes previously. I think I said that probably when he going into the Rosenstruik fight, I bet. Because when he lost to Lewis, I thought there was a chance, like, because I remember them saying he had one fight left on his contract.
Yeah.
And I said, the UFC don't love his fight style. He isn't able to really beat the best of the best, at least so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a John Fitch situation where it's
Yeah.
like, you know, I mean, you've seen other guys. Like, if you're telling me Curtis Blaydes going to Bellator is crazier than, like, Rory McDonald going to Bellator, Gegard Mousasi going to Bellator, Benson Henderson going to Bellator.
Yeah.
Corey Anderson. I mean, those all feel like it feels like Curtis Blaydes fits with those guys somehow.
Yes.
So it would not surprise me. I mean, he would dominate that division, by the way.
I think he would. Yeah.
But that's why, like, a loss here, I almost wonder if the UFC is kind of like hoping to kind of cut their losses with Curtis Blaydes. But with a win, Dominic, I mean, he's still right there. Like, how can you argue that he's not one of the elite of the division? He's beaten so many top-level talent. It's just Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou. And Derek Lewis, you know, just as soon as we think he's kind of going downwards,
he finds a way.
He knocks out Chris Daukaus, and then he's right back. Then he gets knocked out by Tai Tuivasa. So now we're starting to think, okay, this is kind of the end.
Yeah.
Who knows what,
so whoever gets scheduled to Derek next, sorry, you're screwed.
Yeah, but you know, I tend to trust Curtis Blaydes more in terms of future potential.
Yeah.
Do I think he necessarily is ever going to beat Francis Ngannou? Not really, but he is a guy that I could see fighting for a title for what it's worth. I just don't know if the UFC really view him that way. Chris Daukaus, I think there's a lot unknown about him still. He's only went out of the first round in the UFC once, and that was in his win over Shamil Abdurakhimov.
Yeah.
But he hasn't yet to face a wrestler, especially of this caliber.
Yes.
How's he going to respond to that?
Mm-hmm.
Is he have good takedown defense? Is he going to light up Curtis Blaydes on the feet? These are questions that I look forward to seeing answered. I think most are kind of thinking this might be like a 5-round, like Curtis Blaydes in top control.
I don't know.
But I feel like there's two. I don't know if Curtis Blaydes can afford to have even that kind of winning performance. Like, I don't think he can play it safe here.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when you saw that initial approach he had in the Lewis fight was what I thought was so interesting.
It's a bit more aggressive.
Yeah, he chose to stand with him the whole first round. Won the first round, to be honest with you. I thought he didn't look bad at all on the feet. And while Chris Daukaus doesn't carry the same knockout power that Derek Lewis has, he's probably the more efficient striker, in terms of like an actual boxer. He kind of has that upper skill set here in this division. So is Blaydes going to want to risk it on the feet with him, or is he just going to, again, just inevitably fall back to that bread and butter? If Daukaus can keep it on the feet, it gets really interesting for me. It really does.
Yeah. I think we'll move on to the next bout from this card, Dominic. Not the co-main event, not even the feature bout.
Yeah.
This fight's definitely being overlooked. On our main card, though, we do see what could end up being a title eliminator. I guess we'll get your thoughts on that. But Askar Askarov, the number 2 ranked men's flyweight in the world, going up against number 6 Kai Kara France. So, Dominic, we've heard some rumors going around. It looks like the UFC is committing to that 4th fight between Brandon Moreno and Deiveson Figueiredo. And I think most people would say, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Has the fact that we're going in that direction with the title picture, has that hurt this fight, the attention to this fight, the interest in this fight in your eyes for Askarov versus Kara France?
No, I think it actually helps it. I think it helps it because, to me, the lone man out that's losing is Alejandro Pantoja, just kind of sitting there in the middle between everybody. But I think, especially like if that gets booked, within the next week or two officially or whatever, then there's even more pressure on this fight to deliver on ESPN, in a big stage for both these guys. I do actually view this as a number 1 contender fight, and I hate to pass up Pantoja. I do. But sitting out, I don't think helped him originally when he couldn't accept the initial date. And now that these two are fighting, like, dude, if Askarov wins this fight, regardless of Pantoja's win streak and how good he's looked recently, we can't deny him anymore, especially if he makes the weight. That's the thing. We do need him to make weight successfully Friday morning. But if he comes out here and dominates Kara France, one thing, by the way, that I didn't realize until I was taking notes for this fight, Askarov has actually finished 11 out of his 14 wins. Because I feel like he may be viewed as like that boring type fighter when he is grappling and whatnot. But he does find his way to get finishes. It's just not as many in the UFC is where that problem arises.
Zero in the
UFC.
See, all of his decisions have been
before
in all of his decisions have been in the UFC.
Or yeah. Then the finishes came before.
That's the thing is, like, once he got to this level of competition, you're just seeing that maybe. I mean, I get what you're saying. I think there is capabilities are there. I mean, he's very talented, a lot more well-rounded than people think. But go ahead and continue.
So yeah, I mean, to me, if he wins for sure, and with Kai Kara France, you've got the market behind him with New Zealand. He's on a 2-fight win streak. He's a firecracker when he gets in the cage. He knocked out Cody Garbrandt. So if he can come in and beat Askar and take that O away from his record, how do you not give him the title fight? That would put him on a 3-fight win streak. So yeah, I think there's a lot riding on this, and the fact that Figgy Moreno 4 is more than likely going to happen, I think elevates this fight actually.
I don't know if it elevates it, but so I guess in a way I do think that because we kind of assumed that trilogy would wrap up everything.
Right.
Back in January, because this fight was already announced. We said, okay, winner of this fight be next. Not what's happening.
Yeah.
So I do think it hurts it in a way. I mean, I wish this fight was the co-main event. And even if this was a title eliminator, I'm not sure if it would be the co-main event. But as far as the competitiveness of the bout, it's still super high level. And I think there is still a chance that the winner of this could be next for the winner of Deiveson Moreno 4. You look at Askar Askarov, he's had some issues with the weight cut, at least one specifically that I remember.
Yeah.
But he has a win over Pantoja.
Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot. When Pantoja's the guy who kind of got the shot over him, if Askar wins here, it's hard to say when he already has a win head-to-head with Pantoja. It's hard to say that he doesn't deserve that shot. Kai France is an interesting one because that win over Cody Garbrandt really put a lot of eyes on him. Cody Garbrandt, former Bantamweight champion, he's had his struggles since winning the title, was going down to flyweight, an attempt to refurbish his career, to restate him as a title challenger in a new division. He wanted to win this fight in emphatic fashion with France in order to get himself a title shot, and he got knocked out in like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
France is a hammer, man. He is a hammer on the
Lots
feet.
of power.
He is one of the more powerful guys in this whole division. The problem for him has always been when he's the nail, when someone is putting him on his back. He doesn't have the best takedown defense.
Yeah.
Askarov is probably the best wrestler in this whole division. And I think he's sort of, because he's kind of gone under the radar, this whole division really has, especially
It does.
in that time frame when we weren't sure if it was staying around. I think less and less people were paying attention.
Yeah.
Then Cejudo kind of brings it back to life, and I think now we're in a good spot. But, you know, just because the record's undefeated, I know there's the draw with Moreno. When you really look at some of these performances from Askarov, he's not necessarily gotten through them completely clean. That draw with Moreno nearly finished that fight with a nasty, I believe it was a head kick. It went to a draw, so
Yeah.
that's why there's a lot of intrigue in that fight being run back. But I know he was hurt by, I don't know if it was Pantoja or Tim Elliott, one of the two. He got hurt in that fight. So it's not like he's necessarily done it clean, and he's missed weight. So it's hard to necessarily say, like, with the win, he's automatically next. If he loses weight, I don't know if that's the case, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I'd say loses weight.
If he misses weight. Well, yeah, if he misses weight, it's probably chalked for him. Yeah.
Cara France seems he's of City Kickboxing, which that group of guys have just like made themselves into like stars in the UFC. I mean, Dan Hooker, Israel Adesanya, Cara France. That gym has just become so popular with the fans, and Cara France is really living up to that. 2021 was great for him, 2 knockout wins. But again, his record's a little deceiving. I think he's like 23-9.
Yeah.
But at one time in his career, he was 7-6. So I mean,
take with that what you will.
Yeah. But for him, it's really just been about fleshing out the full game, being able to fight more than one type of fighter. When a guy is more willing to stand and trade with him, more times than not, Cara France is going to win that battle. But as soon as someone wants to take that fight to the ground, he just isn't the same guy.
This is the chance for him right here then, to prove that whole narrative wrong. And if he does, he could catapult in.
I'm just going to note that, he did lose not too long ago to Mr. Raw Dog Brandon Royval. So even
we
with
ain't
the
forgetting
win,
about Raw Dog.
Even with the win, I would kind of say, hey, let's, Raw Dog's still out there,
Yeah.
But no, I get it, though. Cara France has a lot of momentum. I actually... Is it a hot take to say that I actually think there's a better chance that if Cara France wins, he gets a title shot than if Askarov wins?
I wouldn't say it's hot for me on this end.
I would say it's a hot take because Askarov has the resume.
To the majority, yes, I'd say it is.
But
I
think
see it.
So I think it's more in terms of like intrigue. People
Yes.
just seem to really be gravitating towards Kai right now. So this would be a way to kind of ride that wave for him, really capitalize on that momentum. And I saw like GC and Helwani. GC's put money on Cara France by finish and inside the distance. Yeah, he's putting.
Okay.
He typically doesn't go that ballsy either.
Yeah.
So definitely a guy that people are loving right now.
There it is.
Now we'll be back with some more UFC Columbus.
Oh my.
We're going to go over to Singapore, Dom.
Oh my goodness.
The card it was canceled at one point. It's back. 1X. The 10-year anniversary card for one championship. And, what a ride it's been.
Yeah.
That we just got on a month ago. But, hey, glad we could have a part in this 10-year build-up, right?
Yes, of course.
I mean, Dominic, this card is a behemoth.
It's sick, dude.
It's a 3-parter.
Yeah.
It starts at 1 a.m. our time, and it's a part 1. Part 2 is at 5 a.m., and then what they call the grand finale starts at 8 a.m. on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think total there's 19 fights, like all across all of the sports. Yeah.
Renee de Ritter's in a grappling match.
Yep.
I mean, there's so much going on. This isn't the main event, but it's definitely the most intriguing fight on the card. It's the flyweight freestyle.
Ooh, I like that name, by the way.
Yeah. Rodtang, who maybe a lot of you MMA fans are not aware of, but he is the one championship. But I keep wanting to say one FC.
One championship.
He is the one flyweight Muay Thai champion. One of the best. They say one of the best of that weight class to ever do it. His record's like 257 and 49 or something like that.
It's insane.
I mean, he's going up against Mighty Mouse, Demetrious Johnson, one of the best to ever do it, regardless of weight class in MMA. But Dominic, this isn't just an MMA bout. It is it's a hodgepodge. It's
special rules, super
special
fight.
rules. So what we have here is 4 3-minute rounds.
Yep.
Rounds 1 and 3 will be Muay Thai rules.
Ooh.
Rounds 2 and 4, MMA rules. I also saw Muay Thai has heavier gloves, but they will be using MMA gloves for all.
Oh, that's interesting to note. Yeah.
Dominic, this has been a fight that a lot of people are interested in, and my question for you as we inch closer and closer. Are you excited for this fight, or are you one of those people that are like, no, this is just too outside of like what I'm comfortable with MMA? I don't really like all these mixing and meshing of the rules. I mean, where's your head at with this fight?
I think it's pretty damn cool, man. I think this is something special. This is something super unique to Juan. To have these two, stars of their organization come together on their biggest night in the company's history. It's a big deal. Rodtang, 24 years old, man, and you already said it. 250 plus victories in Muay Thai. He's the champion in one. He's 8-1 in one in Muay Thai. But Demetrious Johnson, one of the best mixed martial artists that we've ever seen step into a cage. It's worrisome a bit that the first round of the fight is the Muay Thai. Because it's like, this could go quick. He could be out of there. We've seen Demetrious get knocked out in one championship.
His last fight. Actually.
Yes. So, it's and then it's like, well, if he escapes at round 1, then it's round 2, and he could just grapple, the heck out of Rodtang and maybe but then he gets to round 3 and it's Muay Thai again. So I think it's really cool. It's something that's never really been seen before. And to get two big names to agree to do this for one another, I think it's awesome. I do.
I love it on paper. I love that, for one championship, I think it's great for this type of promotion to do something new. We've kind of clamored for these other promotions outside the UFC to try to do things differently. I feel like there's too much of the same.
Yeah.
But then when someone would ask, like, well, what do you propose? I'd be like, well, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the way UFC runs their shows. I don't know. This is something. I mean, the PFL's done some cool stuff, on the back, on the like behind the scenes and stuff. Their presentation. One championship here with this mixed rules fight is something very intriguing, and obviously the fact that they're charging for this card tells you that there's a lot of interest in this one, and they're really putting a lot of stock on people buying this card. Based on this fight. But I am slightly concerned that this fight could end up being kind of a shit show in a way.
Oh, it could, for sure.
Could end up being very underwhelming in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that is. I mean, like, Chatri said himself, he said he sees this going one of two ways. Either Rodtang knocks him out in round 1 or Demetrious submits him in round 2.
Pretty straightforward.
That sounds great in theory. And apparently in Muay Thai rules, like, a lot of people were like, well, Demetrious might just try to kind of run from him. Well, apparently in Muay Thai, you get like carded for that shit and stuff. And you're not allowed to like stall or you know, you see it in MMA, guys kind of intelligently, avoiding the exchanges.
Yeah.
Apparently, he can't really get away with that, which is, crazy.
And you probably don't want to clinch with Rodtang either, Can't clinch.
Right. So, yeah, I really don't know what to expect from this. I really don't. I'm so excited for it and so nervous for it because I want this to do well because I'd love to see more of it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just this, but other types like this. Why can't we do like a kickboxing MMA mixed rules or a kickboxing boxing mixed rules fight would be interesting. Just there's a lot of potential here. This could be some sort of something that could become more commonplace. I don't know if necessarily the UFC is ever going to really get involved in it, but it works perfectly for what one championship does because they offer not just MMA, but they have Muay Thai and kickboxing, and they promote them all very equally over there. So
exactly,
a lot of potential, but there's a lot of pressure on this fight, and no better representative for MMA though than Demetrious Johnson, who
and he deserves this.
In his bid to win the one flyweight title, he came up short against Adriano Moraes, who is also on this card, who we'll talk about later, and he's an absolute hammer. But this is Demetrious Johnson looking to come back and prove that he still has a lot left to give in this sport. Yep. And then we got Rodtang, who's accomplished so much, has fought so much in his sport. Dominic, you know how old Rodtang is?
He's 24.
24 years old.
It's insane. Insane.
For the Iron amount of fights. The Tank. Those are his two nicknames, apparently.
Yeah.
This dude, is a freak when it comes to Muay Thai, and I don't know what to expect, Dom.
This could be something for him. Say he comes out here and beats Demetrious. Could we see a slow transition for him to just go full-time MMA now? Because he's done it all in Muay Thai.
I think he said, I could be wrong, but I thought his intention was with the win here to try to challenge for the MMA flyweight title. Could be wrong on that, but I think that was, something he was really serious about, because again, this fight has been talked about for a while.
Yeah.
It is the biggest fight of the weekend, in my opinion.
It is. I do agree with that. It's just the one that still will be like hard for a lot of eyes to get on domestically, I should say. But yes, I agree. It is the biggest fight of the weekend.
In terms of as an MMA fan, to me, this is the biggest fight of the weekend. I'm so excited to go to UFC Columbus, but realistically, this is the one.
Yeah.
More from this card later, but we do have some fight announcements to get into. So much coming up today.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of this is very fresh. A lot of Bellator going on right now. Let's start with the Bellator Women's Flyweight title, Dom. That double card in Hawaii. We got a lot of announcements for Bellator 279. That's the Saturday card. Well, we got our first one here for 278 on Friday. Juliana Velasquez looks to make the second defense of her women's flyweight title against an OG women's fight game. Liz Carmouche. Fun fact, Liz Carmouche, in the very first MMA women's UFC fight. There we go.
Yes.
She fought Ronda Rousey back at UFC 157. Gave her a good run for her money, might I add, but she came up short. So she's been around a while. Look at how the people she's outlasted. Ronda Rousey. Miesha Tate retired for like 5 years.
Yeah.
She's really, for being someone who, that first fight in the UFC was like the biggest fight she was ever in. She's made quite a career for herself and been able to remain relevant through the years and remain competitive. She gets cut by the UFC after losing in a title fight to Valentina Shevchenko.
Oh, yeah.
And then comes to Bellator. She's 3-0, coming off that win.
Oh.
Fantastic fashion against Kana Watanabe.
Dominated.
Dominic, some people felt like there was some unfinished business between Velasquez and her last opponent, Denise Kiholtz. That was a razor-thin
close
decision. A lot of people thought Kiholtz should have been given an immediate rematch. Do you prefer this fight, or would you have rather seen that fight run back?
I think this is a bigger fight. I think for both women, it's a bigger fight. And just like to a fan, I'd prefer to watch this fight. Bellator, I'm not saying they do rematches all the time, but they tend to like at least consider them a lot. It seems like even with like the Chris Cyborg and Kavanaugh thing recently. So I like this. I like this a lot. You brought over Liz Carmouche for a reason, and now she's undefeated in your promotion. Give her the title shot, and that's what they're doing here. So I love everything about this. It's a chance for Velasquez is very good. She's very well-rounded, very complete in terms of her striking skill set as well. Liz Carmouche is just a little dynamite in her hands. She's gonna, come out of the gate sprinting right at her, or at least potentially that's what she did in her last fight, and it worked. So I think this is a big fight for Velasquez to solidify herself, against a well-known fighter. It's going to be the most well-known fighter that she's fought. Let's be honest here. So, and for Carmouche, if she were to win, what a story it would be. Like you said, she's outlasted so many of these OGs of the game. And then to come over to Bellator, the second biggest promotion, potentially win a belt, I think that's awesome, man. The storylines here are just phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the fight I'm more interested in. I wouldn't have minded if they ran that fight back with Keyholtz, but I didn't care about it the first time, and I don't really care about it now because the fight wasn't really that good. Juliana Velasquez is very good, Dominic. She looked fantastic when she beat Lima Lay McFarland. Even though it wasn't the most exciting of fights, her performance was just spectacular. Then she followed that up with a title defense against Denise Keyholtz, and I was actually pretty disappointed with her performance. I just felt like she didn't use her length at all like she did against McFarland. She let Keyholtz get inside way too much. It just seemed like her game plan wasn't on point. But I did score to fight for her still, despite all that. I thought it was very close, but I thought it was closer than it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
So here's it's not getting easier.
No.
I'm not saying Carmouche is better than Keyholtz right now. Who knows? But what I am saying is Carmouche is more battle tested than Denise Keyholtz. She's the most battle tested woman that Velasquez has ever fought. She's probably going to be coming in here with a ready game plan, very smart, on point, know exactly what she wants to do. If Velasquez comes out and looks kind of like how she did against Keyholtz, I think she's going to lose this fight, Dominic. I really don't think that she's can play it safe here.
No,
and
I don't think Carmouche will let her.
No, I think Carmouche is going to bring the fight to her. She's always played that way. Again, she welcomed her and Ronda Rousey, first women's UFC fight for the entire company. They literally handed Ronda Rousey the belt and said, "You're our champion."
Yeah,
that whole event was set up to promote Ronda Rousey, and Liz Carmouche said, "Fuck that."
Almost played spoiler.
Yeah, almost choked her out. So that's just the kind of fighter you're going to get here. While Juliana Velasquez just seems to lack some of that killer instinct, maybe some of those intangibles that we talk about with some of our favorite fighters, and I think she has that in her. I think she has the ability to be a dominant champion, but she's going to have to figure it out sooner rather than later, or she's going to lose that belt, Dom.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, with Bellator, this one hurts, man. It
Yeah.
hurts so bad.
Yeah.
Probably the event I was most excited for on Bellator's calendar thus far was the men's Bantamweight Grand Prix. I don't know what I mean by the event I'm most. The Grand Prix I've probably been most excited for in Bellator's as long as I've been watching Bellator. This felt like the biggest Grand Prix you could do. It's the most talent-stacked division Bellator has, the most interesting title picture when you cap it off with that fight between Sergio Pettis and Horiguchi, where Horiguchi dominates almost the entire fight and it gets knocked out by Sergio Pettis late in the fight. However, two of our competitors are out. James Gallagher and the champion himself, Sergio Pettis. Apparently Sergio out for an entire year with his injury.
ACL, I think.
Yeah, so I don't know much about James Gallagher's injury. That one kind of came up literally in the last couple hours.
Yeah.
But we don't know who's going to be replacing those two in the Grand Prix as we are recording. But we do know the fight that'll be replacing the originally scheduled Pettis versus Stots at Bellator 279 on April 23rd is now Juan Archuleta, the former Bantamweight champion. He is being moved around in the bracket. He will now fight Raufeon Stots for the interim Bellator Bantamweight title. So, Dominic, obviously this is a big gut punch, but is there any silver lining to this? Is there anything to this matchup that maybe is it more interesting than having Sergio in here? I mean, is there anything really positive to take away, or is it pretty much settling?
Yeah, it's tough. It is. This was such a big deal. Bellator's bantamweight division so stacked, man. This 8-man tournament was going to be awesome. We'll see who the replacements are for Archuleta Stots. First off, Archuleta rightful to get the interim spot against Stots, I think. I mean, he was the last champion, obviously. He lost it to Pettis. So, I'm okay with that there. And it's still, it's a fun fight. Don't get me wrong. All the guys in this division matched up with one another are great. It takes a little bit of wind out of the sails. The sitting champion's not going to be in it. Then you have, a guy in James Gallagher who has a big following behind him. He's not going to be in it. So it's just like, it's a gut punch. For something we were so excited for, something that Bellator was really going to capitalize on and have a big year with, on top of their other big events, it just stings.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll still be great, and, we're still going to have a lot of fun with it, but it's obviously a little compromised. Part of me does kind of like, in a way, like, I kind of like that this tournament is going to essentially decide the number one contender for Sergio Pettis in a way.
That is true. That's true.
Like, it's always been kind of weird to me when, and I understand why, like, they do Grand Prix the way they do, and I wouldn't change it, but based on my history of playing fighting games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and whatnot, it always seemed weird when in the tournament you had the champion defending his way and fighting his way through the tournament along with the other guys. It always felt like the other contenders should be fighting for an opportunity to fight the champion. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is kind of the case, but it's not, because like you're having to defend along the, I don't know. I wouldn't change that, but a part of me feels like this is more in my roots. This is more in my wheelhouse now, tournament style, how I've been used to them as a kid and whatnot. Even on WWE, I'm sure that's what a lot of their tournament style, King of the Ring, stuff like that. So it sucks, but I think the replacement matchup, getting Archuleta in there against Stots, it's a very welcomed interim title fight, in my opinion. Stots still deserves to be in that picture. With Pettis out for a year, I think it's rightfully an interim title be introduced. It doesn't feel egregious. We talked about that with the UFC before. I don't love interim belts in general, but when you're out a year and that was the point of the Grand Prix, you kind of have to do it.
Well, now Noah, real quick too. Let's say Stots makes a run here, teammate of Sergio Pettis. Right. But what if he becomes the interim champ? What if he wins another, then wins the entire Grand Prix? You have a whole year to build up. Now it's like, because they were going to get matched up first, which was kind of weird, because Stots, the whole reason he wanted the Grand Prix was so he didn't have to fight Pettis immediately. Then they booked that fight anyway. But now you can kind of let it simmer, let it boil, sit into the crock pot for a year. It could turn into something, just maybe.
It could be better promoted, I guess.
Yes.
The end. I could see that. Also, another tough. It was a tough day for Bellator.
It was.
The scheduled main event for, I believe, Bellator London is what it's been called, but Bellator 281 was Yaroslav Amosov defending his welterweight title against Michael Venom Page. However, as some of you know, Amosov, Ukrainian fighter, he has been over in the Ukraine fighting
on the
for
front
his country.
lines. Yeah.
Which is crazy. A lot of athletes from Ukraine. The Klitschko brothers, their former boxing champions, have been there. Well, one of them's like one of the Klitschkos is like
the mayor or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not good, but one of them's like high up there. So okay. But because of that, Amosov's not going to be competing, which I think we all can respect. Mm-hmm. But once again, I believe this is also going to be an interim title. Yeah. Michael Venom Page will now be fighting Logan Storley. So Logan Storley gained a huge opportunity here coming off his win over Neiman Gracie.
Oh,
We
yeah.
saw that earlier in the year, a great fight for Bellator. And Dominic, dare I say, this might be... Look, I was more excited because Amosov seems like he has unlimited potential.
He's unreal.
Michael Venom Page is electric, but, there's just something... It feels like he's never, I don't know how to describe Michael Venom Page. It's like, you feel like he's not as good as he is convinced the promotion, or at least where his placement is. It feels like he's, he was beating a lot of guys well below his caliber for a while. He did beat Douglas Lima fair and square, but wasn't a great fight.
Yeah.
He's just yet to really legitimize himself, even though he's
100%.
fighting for a title here.
You're right.
Amosov, unlimited potential, but again, it was a great matchup. But part of me in my head had a hard time seeing where Michael Venom Page was going to be really effective against Amosov. Against Logan Storley, who's great, has a great wrestling background, but did show a willingness to stand and trade against Gracie, I see less than Amosov, but still a guy that's going to bring a really dangerous fight to MVP. And because of that, I think it's maybe a better fight overall. Are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think if you're Bellator too, you kind of get a chance to see, MVP's fighting, a top 3 guy here. If he wins, he's an interim champ, and he kind of proved, okay, I can beat these really close to the title shot guys, and now I'm proving that I'm ready for Amosov, who's 26-0, just some unreal, untouchable fighter, it seems. So in a way, I could see that, especially from Bellator's eyes. But for Logan Storley, you got to think this is your chance to. I mean, you already started the year with a bang by having an amazing, maybe one of the best fights of the year so far in 2022 with Neiman Gracie. Now you have a chance to fight for an interim belt against one of the biggest names in Bellator and MVP. If you beat him, then you're fighting undefeated Amosov. All of a sudden, you're becoming one of the biggest names in Bellator. If he beats MVP in London, by the way, it's an even bigger deal. So I do like this fight, and I think it is a bit more closely contested than the original bout.
Yeah, completely agree. There's no other way to look at this but with positive eyes, because the reason your champion's pulling out is for just bigger reasons than the sport. So I'm glad to see Storley's getting an opportunity here. I thought that fight with Gracie was really good.
Yeah.
And MVP is one of the biggest stars for Bellator, so big platform for both guys. I mean, it's, again, a title could really legitimize MVP's career and the path he took that so many criticized along the way. While Logan Storley never thought he'd be in this spot, at least not right now, and he's kind of being thrusted into a spotlight that he's yet to face in one of the biggest stars of the company and with the gold on the line. I mean, it's huge for both guys.
Yep.
Last one, UFC.
Uh-oh.
Santiago Ponzinibbio looks like he's going to be taking on Michelle Pereira. Dominic, this fight won't suck.
If it does, that's gonna suck. These are two guys that like to go in there and bang. That's as simple as that. We've seen the more patient Pereira lately, right? Just a little bit, but he still likes to throw and throw heavy. And Ponzinibbio, he's good. It's not the same Ponzinibbio though, and I don't know if we'll ever get that version of Santiago again. But if anyone's gonna bring it out of him, it will be Michelle Pereira here.
Wasn't Pereira's last fight with Nico Price?
Yeah.
Didn't he do a backflip?
Oh, he does those in every fight, though.
I know, but you were like, oh, more patient, which I agreed. But I thought against Nico, it kind of came back out a little bit. He was doing some.
I might have to watch
shit.
it again.
Yeah, but I hear you. It should be fun. Don't really have much else to say besides that. We'll talk about it when it gets closer.
Fair enough.
That's happening on May 21st, by the way.
Yes.
Before we get into more fights for the weekend, though, Dominic, there's one thing we missed.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the PFL. They have announced when their season will be starting. It'll be Wednesday, April 20th. That's right. They still like to really make us struggle.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
I believe Wednesday is when this is starting, and then is it?
It's like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Ariel said? or something. I don't know.
I'm not. I remember hearing that, but then the cards that were shown had them like a week apart, so I don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's starting Wednesday, April 20th. Clay Collard taking on Jeremy Stevens. That's really fun.
I like
Anthony
that.
Pettis will be back again. This is the lightweights and light heavyweights. So Antonio Carlos Jr. That means Challenger Series contract winner, and I forget the fucking guy's name. He landed that flying knee that was awesome. It was like the only highlight for the Challenger Series. He'll be on this card. And guess what, Dominic? There was a guy that I criticized PFL for not giving a contract on that same card, LFA double champ Josh Silveira. Now he's competing for.
Say it ain't so. Really?
He's on the card. Yeah.
Good for him. Good for him.
PFL ended up getting him a contract anyways.
Look at him.
Don't matter, I guess.
Look at him. Hey, Roush Manfio back, by the way, too.
Roush
See if he can go back to back.
Might I just say, that main event's going to get completely overlooked. Don Madge is fucking good.
Yeah, it's a good fight.
He was pretty new to I believe he got his debut for the PFL was the finals last year. He was like on the
like an undercard.
I think that's the case, and he's really good. Like that. I mean, Roush Manfio kind of was one on our newcomer of the year list. I mean, a guy that nobody thought was going to win that tournament, and he did. But man, what a tough draw to start. Don Madge, I'm really looking forward to that fight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. Obviously, that means Kayla Harrison will be back soon. And
yes, very true.
A lot of fun to look out for. I'm excited for Jeremy Stevens, Clay Collard. That should be
that's a sick fight, man. Yeah, I like that.
I'm getting excited. Again, I haven't been the most vocal supporter of the Challenger Series, but PFL regular season.
Their season's cool, man. It is.
Inject that shit into my veins. I'll take
it. Amen. No matter what day of the week.
Yeah, we'll figure out how we're going to cover that when it comes time.
Yeah.
Moving on to some more fights for the weekend. Back to 1X. And let's talk about a couple title fights. Yeah, that's right. The rest. We're elevating the rest to have a couple title fights on here. That's right. The one atomweight title in the main event, Dominic. The main event of the biggest card in one championship's history. 2 women main eventing the card. In a division that is unfamiliar to us Yankees over here in good old US of A. The atomweight title, Angela Lee looks to defend against Stamp Fairtex. Some interesting, pretty badass names there. So, Dominic, again, a division we're unfamiliar with. What intrigues you about this fight?
And to see Angela Lee, because again, we've not covered one much, and being that we were so predominant here domestically, we just didn't get to watch it much. But I've always heard of Angela Lee and how good she is, and she's only 25 years old. She's 10-2. Every single fight that both of these women have had professionally have came in one. They've been birthed and molded into title holders and title contenders in one championship, man. 25 for Angela Lee, 24 years old for Stamp Fairtex. These two aren't even in their prime yet, and they already have phenomenal records, phenomenal wins. I think this is it's a big showcase for them. I think it says a lot that they're getting the main event slot. I mean, you look at that fight with Rodtang and Demetrious Johnson, special fight, super rules, Muay Thai, MMA, Demetrious Johnson, one of the best ever. And it's, this is the main event. This takes the icing on the cake, is this atomweight title. So I think it says a lot about one's belief in Angela Lee as a champion, Stamp Fairtex as a contender, and just the quality of fight that we're going to see here. Because both these ladies too, they like to finish fights. I think it's awesome that they get this spotlight for themselves.
It does seem like Angela Lee has gotten a lot of the flair through the years. Like she's a name I've been hearing about for a couple years now. But when I break down this fight, when I really looked more into these two ladies, Stamp Fairtex is a dangerous challenger here for Angela Lee. Not to mention, Angela Lee, she is coming off a win in her last fight, being October 2019. So we haven't seen her in 2.5 years. But before that, she tried to go up and make a bid, I guess, to become a two-weight champion. Lost 2 back-to-back fights in that division at strawweight before moving back down for her last fight, which was a win. So 2.5 years we haven't seen Angela Lee
I didn't even realize that.
Stamp Fairtex is, I think, dare I say, more well-rounded. She has some good submissions. She's very good on her stand-up. But I would say when it comes to the ground game, Angela Lee,
Yeah.
much more complete fighter, much more dangerous fighter. Their records are pretty clean. I think it's 10-2 versus 8-1.
Yep.
I guess for Stamp, her last fight was in December. So, I mean, she fought Dom 4 times in 2021.
She's won 3 in a row, too.
The champion who fought 0 times in the last 2.5 years. I mean, it's pretty staggering when you compare that. But I would like to think that for such a big stage, such a big card, Angela Lee is going to be ready.
I think so, man.
I believe the feature bout of this
Yeah.
card, I believe it's and I'm so excited. This is actually outside of course, the special rules fight. I'm actually more excited for this title fight of the two because Adriano Moraes is back. His last fight was literally his win over Demetrious Johnson on TNT.
He's a beast, dude.
This dude is huge for flyweight. Considering their weight cutting rules they have, I don't know how this guy.
He looked like a
gets down to
lightweight.
Flyweight. Yeah, the size difference is.
It was crazy.
I'm not calling bluff on the whole water weight or water cut thing, but how the fuck does that guy
Yeah.
make?
I don't know.
135 pounds or whatever I guess
Yeah.
flyweight is there. He's going up against Yuya Wakamatsu. Now, I'll be honest. I had to really do some digging on Wakamatsu. I didn't know a ton about him. 15-4, 27 years old. He last fought in December as well. Fought 2 times last year. He is on a 5-fight winning streak.
Yep.
Seems to be a pretty good guy, pretty good fighter. And I might be underestimating him completely by just saying like, yeah, he's pretty good. I guess I really am like. Obviously, we're new to Juan.
Yeah.
We're still learning. But that's the kind of guy that makes me like I'm worried because of how invested I am in Moraes being back. This guy's probably going to come in here and fucking light the place up.
Yeah.
But for what it's worth, I think it's a travesty that we have not seen Adriano Moraes since his win over Mighty Mouse.
When was that? Was that in 2020, right?
Oh my god!
Because it was when they were on TNT.
It was April 2021.
Oh, it was in 2021.
Yeah.
But it's still been a year. I mean,
Yeah. I think that was a travesty. Now, it was great that they put him on TNT, obviously fighting Mighty Mouse. I was loving when Juan
well, he
was
shocked
on
the world.
TNT.
I mean, honestly.
In a way, I mean, I think Juan fans probably were more aware
Yeah.
of how good he was, how dangerous he was. But for us, the guys that are just assume that, it's like, well, if Demetrious is over there and won, and he's probably going to dominate. But not quite the case. He got KO'd cold, Dom, against Moraes. And I just think it's such a travesty we haven't even really heard from this guy since then. I think he has the look of like a real star for this promotion. Yeah. It shows he's the third one from the top here. So, like, they are kind of like not – I don't think they really know what they have in Adriano Moraes. He's got an exciting fight style. He's huge for the division. Yeah. He really looks like he could be a long-term champion. We will see. Wakamatsu may come in here and just like fucking light my ass up for not knowing much about him. But Dominic, I want to give you a chance to give your thoughts. Is there anything more you can add to the matchup as a whole?
I mean, honestly, you said it all, man. I am going to be curious to see how the size matches up in this one. I know, Wakamatsu's a bit taller than DJ. He's 5'5", but Moraes is still 5'8". Just Moraes is so thick. They don't have like reach in one, or at least that I can find on the internet. So I don't know kind of how that's going to look, but I still feel like Moraes is going to be the much bigger guy when they step into the cage, and that plays a huge factor. I think it did against DJ inevitably before the knee landed for the knockout. So he could really kind of stamp and solidify how good he is here, Moraes. And for Wakamatsu, the guy that's, he's 5-2 and 1, he's been doing good. But if you beat this guy that beat DJ, it ups your status a bit,
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Also on this card, Japanese MMA legends go head-to-head. 38-year-old Shinya Aoki takes on 46-year-old Yoshihiro Sexyama. So when this fight first got announced, I was pretty, intrigued, pretty excited for it. Must admit that now that it's here, I'm kind of laissez-faire about it, a little bit mid on it. I can't help but just look at like these two and kind of how what we're looking at here as far as activity goes. I mean, Aoki has been the much more active guy of the two, but he fought twice last year. He fought 3 times in 2019. He was a champion not too long ago for one. Literally lost. He lost his belt to Christian Lee in 2019, so he was a champion not too long ago. But then you go over to Akiyama and Dominic. You know what I'm about to say. Akiyama was fighting for the UFC and went on a pretty big losing streak in UFC in like 2012.
Yeah,
got cut by the UFC.
He's 46.
And I'm gonna give you the thing that was kind of like just shocking me here was that he last fought for the UFC in November 2015. He then returned to MMA action and won in June 2019.
Yep.
Fought 2 times, once in 2019, once in 2020, and this is him being back after another extended hiatus, and it's against Shinya Aoki. I mean, I think he might have even retired after his last fight, but Aoki called him out for this event, so I think that's kind of why this is happening. But ultimately, it feels a little bit like Robbie Lawler, Nick Diaz too, where like I want to be excited about it, but I just have my doubts that this is going to really be a good fight.
I think we could be in for a pretty one-sided potential beatdown here from Aoki. I mean, we're talking about a guy, he's 38 in his own right, but he's on a 4-fight win streak. This dude's still kicking ass. He's got 34 finishes, 30 of them by submission. I mean, this dude's an absolute animal. So I don't know if this is the greatest decision for Akiyama, but 2 Japanese MMA legends, I guess I'll approve for now.
Sexyama never says no to a challenge.
Hell yes.
And by the way, his style in that face-off, dude, his swag was fucking on like.
Oh, he's got some drip. Yeah.
That drip was fucking. I mean, I was jealous. I was like, man, I'm sitting over here with Cheeto hands, wearing Carhartt shirts 5 days a week. This dude, he looked like. I mean this with respect. He looked like a member of the Yakuza, like just fucking dripped out, iced out, baby.
Yes, very true.
UFC Columbus. We're back to that now. The co-main event is it, even though it's not one of the top 2 fights, in our opinion, still a fight with a lot of interest behind it. Joanne Calderwood. Joanne, don't call me Calderwood. Makes her return to the Buckeye State after.
Here it comes.
The incident. She's taking on Alexa Grasso. So Dominic, I'm going to let some newer viewers or people maybe that haven't seen the constant ribs I've made at your expense about this. At UFC 203, Joanne, at the time Calderwood, opened our main card against none other than Jessica Andrade. I think it was the main card.
Yeah, it was.
And again, I'm still pretty new to the sport at the time. I'm like, I'm all in. Like, I've been watching Fight Pass, but again, this is like just a couple months into my fandom. So I didn't really know who either of the 2 ladies were at the time. And we were with 2 of our buddies, and they both were kind of like me. Like, Dominic had kind of gotten us all interested in it by inviting us to his house to watch the cards. So, but you were the most knowledgeable one there by far. And I mean, that's probably still the case now when it comes to our friends. But you were very adamant about that fight, that how excited you were to watch Joanne Calderwood. She had never been taken down.
Never.
The UFC, Dominic proclaims.
Never.
He wagged his finger. He said, Jessica Andrade will not defeat Joanne Calderwood. Gotta
at
keep
the time.
that up.
Yeah.
He said, no, she will not. And before you could say takedown, Joanne Calderwood was taken down. And got taken down like multiple more times before getting finished in the first round. Jessica Andrade, we now know just like how good both of them are.
Of course,
Andrade is, but it was Dominic's jaw kind
The
of
irony.
dropped.
Yeah.
The irony was just at a 10, and
Yeah.
then all three of us kind of were like, well, maybe Dom doesn't know his shit.
Yeah. Maybe we should have went with someone else.
So Dominic did have to kind of take a lot of crow for that one. But now you have a chance to redeem yourself, Dominic.
Yes, exactly.
Because Joanne, don't call me Calder Wood, is fighting Alexa Grasso. So Dominic, first and foremost, I want you to give your prediction for this fight.
Well,
I'm not saying you have to pick a winner. I'm just saying I want you to pick how is this fight going to go. Is there any bold claims you can make about this fight? It's a chance of redemption.
no bold claims on this one because I think it's pretty cut and dry. I think these are two strikers that are going to go in there and they're going to have a kickboxing match. Joanne Wood is more of that Muay Thai practitioner with her distance strikes and whatnot. Alexa Grasso, she's a phenomenal boxer. One of the best female boxers, I think, in the UFC that they have in terms of just so crisp and technical. Doesn't really have the power or whatnot, but man, she can really pack a punch and put damage upon her opponents. And that's what it's going to be, I think, for 3 rounds, back and forth action. I don't know. There's going to be no takedown, so I don't have to worry about that and making any kinds of claims like that anymore. I don't think this fight goes on the ground at all. This is a big chance. Joanne, JoJo's been so close and kind of lost out on that title opportunity when she chose to fight Maya. Then she lost, and now she's sitting at number 7. So she really is in a dire kind of circumstance, not to get cut from the UFC, but if she really wants to get in there for that title, which in this division, it's easier to do than others because Valentina just keeps churning through opponents. She's got to put it together here. It's got to start here with Alexa. Grasso, though, she's coming into her all. 125 pounds is her weight class, man. She's on a 2-fight win streak. She's dominated clearly into 2 straight decision victories, the last one being Macy Barber. The only thing I don't like is we haven't seen Grasso in over a year, which is unfortunate. I know there were some fight cancellations and stuff, but she's coming into her all, and I'm very excited to see how she's going to look here against really the most experienced opponent that she's had to date in the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, she's still pretty fresh into this division.
Yes.
She's 2-0 in this division. She was at strawweight before, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
At strawweight, she kind of fizzled out, never really reached her ceiling. I mean, that's a story that you could use for a lot of future champions or whatever. So, her story's not written yet. She has so much left or so much more that she could give, I believe. And, it's all about, for me, it's about seeing activity.
Mm-hmm.
The Macy Barber win, she looked phenomenal.
So good, yeah.
But when you go a year plus, the sport just moves on, man. It just moves on. So, yes, maybe there are benefits to probably taking that time off. We were still in a pandemic. I mean, we still kind of are. But, there's benefits to where maybe, you're not taking, if you're not fighting 5 times a year, that's 5 times less damage you have to take. I mean, there's benefits to taking time off, but for her, who is still in the middle of she's kind of just getting into her prime years, and she was having some momentum at that time, beating a name like Macy Barber. It's kind of disappointing that now it feels like it kind of lost some of its steam a little bit. Mm-hmm. But co-main event spot, going up against Joanne Wood, who is a fan favorite, I feel like a lot of people like Joanne Wood. And it's because she's a dog, man. I mean, she has this very, I love her voice, her accent,
Yeah.
Quite the, I don't know, a darling voice in a way.
Yes.
But
savage.
She's a savage of a fighter, man.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for her, she's lost 2 straight. Now, both of those were to grapplers, wrestlers, and that's not going to be the problem here. But I almost don't know if that's for the better because in terms of the striking breakdown, I think Joanne Wood's got more power, but Alexa Grasso, I think, is the far more technical boxer. And yes I know Wood is more of the Muay Thai style. I think I don't really know what to think of this fight because I really do think Joanne Wood does pose some sort of intangible threat to Grasso. Grasso does tend to keep her fights pretty clean. Not a lot of knockdowns. Everything's usually pretty by the book. Pretty much, she comes in there, she fights a girl for 3 rounds, they go their separate ways.
Yep.
Not a whole lot of like, whoa moments or twists and turns. It's usually pretty straightforward. Almost like, I call them like a spreadsheet fight. Like it's basically a formula, you run it, move on. Joanne Wood's not like that.
No.
Joanne Wood has been winning fights that she's ended up losing. The Jennifer Maia fight where she got caught as submission, the only one of Jennifer Maia's career. She's also won fights that she's been on the brink of losing. She had that 3-round war with Jessica Ai.
That was a sick fight. Yeah.
She got a split decision win over Andrea Lee back in Abu Dhabi in UFC 242. So she's had her moments, and I still feel like there's a route for her to salvage.
Yes.
This run. She gave up that title fight to fight Jennifer Maia. We've talked about it. Obviously, in hindsight, probably should have just waited for the title fight, get that payday. But, it is what it is. And now she's had a couple losses that have really knocked her down a peg or two. But a win over Alexa Grasso might not push her forward very much, but it can at least stop her from free falling, which is really what she needs right now.
Well said.
Following that, we had to talk about the Ohio boy, the guy representing our state on this card.
And the city.
Matt, the Immortal Brown, taking on Brian Barberena. This fight, to me, I see one word when I read those names, and that's violence.
Ooh, good one.
This fight will be violent. And I don't know how many Matt Brown has left. I don't know if he said if this is going to be his last one. It kind of feels like it could be.
Especially if he wins, man, in Columbus.
Right.
Man.
So it really feels like we don't have much time left with Matt Brown. I know he's never been like a title holder or whatever, but at one time, this guy was one of the best welterweights in the world. And he's constantly remained a competitive threat to guys in this division. I mean, he's coming off a win in a very underrated KO of Diego Lima. But before that, he did lose to guys like Carlos Condit, who was also kind of washed at the time. Got TKO'd by Miguel Baeza. So he's fit whatever role the UFC's needed for him. He's fought he's done the other kind of old guy fights or legend fights. He's fought Diego Sanchez and Donald Cerrone, Diego Lima, like I mentioned, Ben Saunders, Carlos Condit. But then he's also welcomed some of the younger up-and-comers like Miguel Baeza and paid the price for it.
Yeah.
23-18 is what his record is at this time. And he goes up against Brian Barberena, who might be the most exciting fighter you've never heard of.
Oh, I love that.
This guy, I don't know if he's ever been in a less than like 4.5 out of 5 fight. I mean, this guy only puts on like fight of the nights.
Yes.
Win or lose, he goes in there and goes for it. He's got incredible durability. I think back to the very first card on the ESPN network. Funny how we're now going, this card is on ESPN, the network. It was, the main event was Cain Velasquez, Francis Ngannou.
Oh, yeah.
To open that main card, it was Brian Barberena versus Vicente Luque. Back when Luque wasn't quite as revered as he is now. Those two beat the shit out of each other. Yeah. It was this was 2019, so obviously we weren't doing this then. Probably would have been on the fight of the year list. I mean, that fight was incredible. Barberena came up short in the end, got finished very late in round 3. That's kind of been his MO, man. He will fucking take it to guys for 3 rounds and get pummeled right back. I don't know how many times he's been finished in round 3. I mean, he was TKO'd by Randy Brown in round 3, Vicente Luque in round 3. He has a decision loss to Leon Edwards.
Look at these losses.
Colby Covington.
That's crazy.
I mean, look at some of these people he's fighting. He's got a TKO win over Jake Ellenberger, a decision win over Warley Alves. He submitted Sage Northcutt. I mean, there's a lot of names on this guy's resume.
No easy fights.
He lost to Jason Witt late last year. You remember that fight? That fight was fucking sick too.
Yeah.
and that was a majority decision. I mean, this guy is just, you probably saw his name and just moved up right on past, probably didn't even recognize him. But this guy, I'm telling you, puts on nothing but bangers. And you line him up with Matt Brown, who I don't think is going to turn down that kind of fight.
No.
These two guys have only struggled when they've went against the guys that take them down and hold them down. Neither of them are going to do it here. Have at, boys.
Exactly.
I mean, that's all I can say.
This has fight of the night written all over it. It could be a swan song, potentially, for Matt Brown, 41 years old, debuted in the UFC in 2008, Noah. We're 14 years deep into his UFC career, and if he can cap it off in his home state, in his city of Columbus, what a story it would be.
Mm-hmm. Neil Magny.
He is on this card.
This
fight was
weird.
weird.
Weird. Very weird. Because
yeah.
I forget, I didn't write down his ranking. He's ranked like number 9 at welterweight, I want to say. 8 or 9.
He's 9.
He's going up against Max Griffin. So Max Griffin's getting a huge opportunity here. And might I just say, I'm a little surprised that he's getting this kind of call up, this kind of shot.
I like
I wonder. I kind of wonder if this is Neil Magny. Maybe. I mean, it's weird when Neil Magny was calling for Khamzat Chimaev, and he gets Max Griffin instead. It's like,
yeah, that's definitely true.
Was that Neil Magny's call? Was he kind of like, he had a couple tough losses there, like the loss to Chiesa.
Yeah.
Did he need something to kind of boost him back up? Or does the UFC really kind of being like, no, Max Griffin deserves this opportunity? Now, Max Griffin is a very exciting fighter, has some fun stand-up. But he's the older guy in this fight, and Neil Magny has doubled the amount of UFC fights. I just have a hard time seeing where Max Griffin wins this fight unless he obviously lands a knockout shot. I think skill for skill, I just think Neil Magny's a lot better, Dominic. What do you think?
It's interesting, man, because you know what you're going to get from Neil Magny for the most part, right? I mean, he's so good in the clinch and his grappling, and, for having that long reach, he does like to keep it close for the most part, which is odd.
So weird. He is an MMA unicorn where I can't say it's the most exciting fight style, but it's so hard for fighters to like work through it to win.
Yeah,
look good against them.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Barberena and the competition he's fought. I mean, Neil Magny, I feel like he's fought everybody too. He's en route to chasing GSP's record for wins in the welterweight division, which is just crazy. But Max Griffin, is he really the older man in this fight? That's actually interesting.
I think he's 36, I want to say.
Damn. Hey, he's still a freak athlete, man. Carries explosiveness and power. He could make it scary, but if he doesn't, essentially get a knockout, I think it is a hard fight for him to win. I agree. And
I don't know how many times Neil Magny's been knocked out in his career. I know he had that standing KO loss to Ponzinibbio.
Yeah.
Besides that, especially in the UFC.
I mean, he'll usually lose by a decision or win by a decision.
Yeah, it's pretty much die by the sword and live by the sword. Right?
Yeah.
And I just, again, I don't see Max Griffin's route here. But obviously, the UFC are pairing these two up for a reason.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I have been impressed with what I've seen from Max Griffin, even if I wasn't necessarily thinking top 15 or top 10 was next.
I agree.
Last but not least.
I'm so happy we get to see this fight.
Top 5 women's flyweight contender. Former title challenger Jennifer Maia is back, looking to bounce back after her second loss to Caitlin Chookagian. But it doesn't get any easier. She takes on the ferocious and surging. Apparently, I heard Ariel's really good at pronouncing names. It's Mano. They don't pronounce the last N.
Mano.
Fierro.
Mano Fierro.
Yeah. So Mano Fierro, ranked number 13, but yet, Dominic, I feel like this is a beautiful form of matchmaking here.
Yeah.
Jennifer Maia is, she's good. She earned her way to her spot, but she's a 500 fighter in the UFC.
Yep.
She got her biggest win against Joanne Wood. Outside of that has been somewhat unremarkable. I think her 4 ranking is a bit of a facade, if I'm being honest. But she's still a tough out for anybody. Yes. And I think she's a great test for the young Mano Fierro, who I was originally supposed to fight Jessica I, and I was not a fan of that matchup.
No,
I just felt like Jessica I just think she's too far. I just think she's just not very good anymore.
This works out better, is what you're saying.
I think this is more what I'm looking for. More of a test, but still one that I think is, the rankings wouldn't tell you this, but head to head, this is much more competitive. And if anything, it's still Mano's fight to lose here. I mean, she is an exceptional talent at this flyweight division that I don't think enough people have the eyes on it like we do, where these prospects are coming up. Casey O'Neill. We just talked about, Alexa Grasso, Macy Barber.
Marina Maverick, Aaron Blanchfield,
yes,
Melissa Gatto.
So many people.
Yeah.
And Mano might be the best of all of them.
She's leading the charge.
This is a chance for her to. If she wins this fight, Dominic, she might get a title shot next.
She's launched in.
Taylor Santos is number 5 and is getting a title fight, and that's because everybody in front of Taylor Santos has lost to Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah.
Mano, I don't know if she's quite ready for Valentina, but she better get ready, because if she comes in here and what could be this is a chance for her to potentially put on a showcase, show the world, hey, I've arrived, and now she's in the top 5, and then people might start clamoring for her to be in a title fight. Her versus Valentina might happen before the end of the year, Dom.
Yeah, and if she gets there, by the way, that's actually a very intriguing matchup. I know Valentina's like this queen unbeatable. I get that.
And I realized when I said that, I kind of acted like Taylor won't win.
Fight, but true, because
I think Taylor's a tough fight for Valentina. I really do. But this fight is all about Mano for me. If Jennifer Maia wins, what a fucking upset that would be in my
huge upset. And I think this tells you how much the UFC believes in Mano, and they're trying to capitalize on it. They are. And then if she wins, hello, you're catapulted right in.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up here for this weekend preview edition of the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast. Let us know your thoughts on all the fights that we broke down here, any that we missed. Which fights are you excited for? Let us know. But Dominic, until next time, tell us where they can find us on social media.
You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, @DSLey14. More importantly, go follow, go engage, go interact with us. Instagram been popping lately. Let us know if you guys like the reels. It seems to get a lot of engagement. And
Dominic opened up Pandora's box.
Yeah, apparently. So let us know what you guys think there. But you can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, @BAJ_MMA podcast.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, @NTBaker_. You guys know the deal. Link in my bio, link tree, list of links. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube channel, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. Also, a couple links for today's sponsor, Anchor.
Shout out
to Anchor. You can find those there. But that's it. We're out. And we will see you guys on Monday. Have fun to everybody at UFC Columbus. Say hi if you see us there.
Yeah, if you see us there, come say hi.